Hi, everyone. Good evening and welcome to our live stream today. My name is Uche Ago, and in this channel, I share information that help nurses. I share immigration updates and valuable information. Please feel free to stay with us during this live session as it promises to be valuable and sharing more information on how you can get free scholarships in USA. Our guest here today is Uma Agada, and Uma Agada is going to be sharing valuable information to us today based on her experience. Magada is a doctoral researcher of innovation in global development at Arizona State University, USA. So, Ma, you're welcome to the channel today, and thank you
Thank
for
you.
accepting to be our guest to provide more information for people who would find this information valuable. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Chi. Happy to be here. Super excited to be doing this with you.
So without wasting any time, we will just dive into general overview of scholarships, free scholarships. Can you please give us a general overview on how people can find scholarships in the USA?
Okay. I think the conversation around scholarships, like there's just so many moving parts.
Mhm.
So it's hard to say like this is exactly what scholarships are all about. Because you need to think about whether you're talking about like undergrad scholarships or like graduate school, and even within like the graduate school bucket, you have like master's scholarships and PhD
Yeah,
scholarships, and they all have like different features and attributes. And even beyond like categorizing them by the type of school that you're trying to go into, there's also like whether it's merit based or whether it's need based. Merit based is where you're getting scholarships purely based off of the fact that you are like exceptional, and they feel the need to sort of,
academically.
yes, or even professionally, right? If you're
Okay.
doing like a professional graduate program, right? Even at the PhD level, you have like the academic PhDs, and then you have like the professional doctorates, right? So if
Okay.
they feel like you're super like remarkable or exceptional, then they might want to sort of like support you or like invest in a
Yeah.
sense in your journey or your academic pursuit. But if it's need based, then it means that you don't have as much resources to support yourself, and then you need them to sort of like supplement whatever it is that you have, or even take you all the way. Um, the other thing that I think is worth mentioning is that there are scholarship opportunities that are provided by universities, but also there are some that are provided by like external parties. So
Yeah.
you have like some companies that have like foundations that provide scholarships. You have like nonprofits or even civil society groups that have like scholarship opportunities as well. So I think the first thing that you want to bring to it as a general overview is like an open mind, curiosity, and excitement, because there really are a lot of opportunities out there depending on, what you're looking for and what you're fit for.
Okay. Can you please tell us the eligibility and the requirements for this professional need and need base?
Okay, so I think this is a good place to say that everything that I'm sharing is based off of my own like personal experience. So it would kind of be like the lens through which I'm recommending anything.
Yeah.
Um, I personally was able to get, I have been able to get like two scholarships that I've accepted. I've had more
Mhm.
offers than that, but two full rides. So one was like a full fellowship for my master's, and it covered like tuition, it covered health insurance, I think.
Okay.
Um, yeah. And then for my PhD, I was also able to get like a 4-year fellowship that covers like my tuition, my health insurance, and stipends.
Okay.
Right. So for each of these ones, thankfully, the eligibility criteria was the same as the criteria for getting into the programs that I applied to. Now, there are some scholarships that require you to have more than, or like additional requirements, you know, I don't know why I'm finding it hard to articulate what I'm trying to say, but like they basically need you to have what you need to get into the program itself, and then whatever else they need to be able to give you that scholarship. But there are some that sort of just have it tethered together. So like if you meet the criteria for getting into that particular program that you're applying to, then you sort of automatically, are eligible to be considered for those scholarships. The typical things that you want to be looking out for are on the website, admissions website for most programs, right?
Okay.
Standardized criteria would be like definitely an undergrad degree, like a bachelor's, whether it's Bachelor of Science or Bachelor of Arts. In the United States, I think it's important to mention that for a PhD, you don't
Yeah.
always need to have a master's. So like the
Oh,
in the US, yes, some programs are able to just like take you straight from like a bachelor's
Bachelor of
degree,
Science. Wow.
yes, to get a PhD. I know a couple of people who have been able to get that and got full rights like straight off of like Nigeria, right?
Hmm.
But either way, for both masters and PhD, they require you to have like a bachelor's. Some
Yeah.
programs require you to do like standardized tests, so like GRE or GMAT.
Yeah.
But I've also noticed that like post COVID, I don't know what it is, but I've noticed that a lot of them are more willing to give you like waivers. So you sort of want to go and see if you meet criteria for getting a waiver, and if that's the
Yeah.
case, better life for you, right? They require some people require like TOEFL or like some English testing. In my time, I wrote like letters to ask for that to be waived because I'm originally from Nigeria. English is the primary language of instruction, so I didn't see the need to write all of that, and thankfully, I was granted those waivers. Um,
Amazing.
what else do you need for scholarships? They also require sometimes, or most times, really more than just like your academic um sort of qualifications. Some of them require you to like have done like extracurricular activities like volunteering, um maybe just work with like non-profit projects that you've done. If it's like undergrad level, some of them will require you to like see what you've done with like clubs at school, things like that. I'm trying to think about what else. Professional experience really comes in handy as well,
Okay.
especially if you're doing something that is more like an MBA or a professional doctorate that sort of requires you to have had some years of experience before coming into the program. So I think with eligibility, but it looks different
It's
for
specific to
depending on the program.
universities.
Yes, but on average, it's one of those things where both quality and quantity matter, right?
Okay.
The more you have, the better for you. Like a person who has just like a 2-1 bachelor's degree, right? Versus a person who has a first class bachelor's degree, 2 years consulting work experience. Like the latter person kind of like brings more to the table, right? So
Yeah.
one of the things I would advise is to get started super early so that if you're able to ascertain what the eligibility criteria is for a particular program or couple of programs you're interested in, then you can start early to sort of like do the things that you need to do to put you in a position where you're coming to the table with more in terms of
Yeah.
just all the things you have, but also just more quality or better quality. Um, yeah, I hopefully I answered your question there. I don't know if I missed anything,
Yes,
but feel
yes,
free
yes,
to.
yes, absolutely. You did. The next question would be, how can people find these scholarships and what are the application process like?
Okay, so Google is your friend, right? Google is your friend. um the university like admissions office at every school is
Yeah.
your friend. Like a lot of people, especially international students who are applying from like outside the country, typically
Hmm.
they just like go online, see whatever there is, and just like apply without touching base. It makes a difference sometimes to like reach out to those offices because there might be programs within the university that are not like on the website. So let me give you an instance. I study at Arizona State University. I'm at the College of Global Futures there, and
Yeah.
within the College of Global Futures, my program is with the School for the Future of Innovation in Society. Right
Okay.
now, it's possible that if you talk to like just ASU, they'll just tell you like, oh hey, there's like XYZ scholarships available for international students at ASU. They might not know some of the programs that you have at college level.
Right.
Right. And even within the college level, they might not be privy to some of the things happening at the SFIS level. Right. So, like, look at the program you want to do, speak to all the sort of levels or skills of affiliations that your program has and talk to people in that space. Like, send cold emails, take advantage of things like LinkedIn. Right. People are more willing to respond than you would know. Right. So, that helps you sort of max out all the potential opportunities that are within ASU, right? And then the other thing is now to look out for like external funding opportunities that are available depending on what you are. So like there are programs for women specifically, right? So if you wanted to get an MBA in the US, for instance, you want to look at like Forte Foundation that has
Yeah.
scholarships for women. You might be interested in like Fulbright, for instance, right? So you have like all these opportunities that are even outside of the university, right? Some really large like multinationals are like another good place to look, out for.
Okay.
So you have like, I think there was a time that like Seven Up was doing like scholarships for MBAs, right? I'm aware of like a Mastercard Foundation scholarship for PhDs.
Oh, great.
From like West Africa, I know a couple of people from Ghana that have taken advantage of that, right? So does that you kind of want to like be everywhere and just like think creatively, think about organizations that have foundations, organizations that have
Yeah.
like sustainability or CSR programs, because some of them are like sort of investing in education. And like just sometimes just grab the bull by the horn and reach out to that wealthy person or that CEO or whatever. Like sometimes people are just looking for somebody who has guts and is audacious to say, I believe in something. And they're like, okay, this young person, can walk the talk and is just brave. And they just connect to that and are willing to like sponsor you. Um, that's
Can
how I
I
go
can I ask
about that.
a question, because I'm trying to think from my viewers' perspective, people
Sure.
who would watch this video. You said ASU. You can you please explain ASU? So, what's the prompt when they get to Google? Are they going to say how to find scholarships in USA, or are they going to type the universities to find those scholarships?
So I the place to start, I would say, is what you want to study, right?
Okay.
So like when I was looking to do my PhD, I would look out for like PhDs in global development, PhDs in global development and innovation, PhDs in international development, PhDs in systems innovation and development. I just played around with like some of the keywords that I thought applied to like the themes that I was interested in, and that's how I came onto like my program, which is a PhD in innovation in global development. Right,
Okay.
then you now look at that to see what school that's at or what university, because here we have what we call like faculties in Nigeria is what we refer to as schools here. So you look at the university is that Arizona State University. It's like, okay, so what school within Arizona State University? All those will just be on like the website. So it would then be for you to then check the website for SFIS, right?
Hmm.
SFIS will definitely say, oh, SFIS is a school that is part of the College of Global Futures. So you go check College of Global Futures as well, right? And then things at ASU. You might also want to filter like your search based off of like, oh, scholarships. So that's one. You've sort of maybe hopefully gotten like some information from ASU. You can now go and say, okay, scholarships for international students in the USA, because let's say you're looking for opportunities to supplement that one, or
Hmm.
scholarships for development in the USA, World Bank scholar, like you now start thinking of organizations that work in that space, right? So maybe World Bank scholarships or United Nations, grants or academic grants. Just start playing around with
Hmm.
keywords. Like that's how I would go about it. You also have like some like online directories, like websites that just what they do is provide like information on
Relating to
like
scholarship.
scholarships and like filter based off of like discipline, right?
Yeah.
With programs that are interdisciplinary, I should say this too. With programs that are interdisciplinary, there's even like more room for you to do like cool stuff with finding opportunities, right? So within
Hmm.
my program, my research focus is food systems and climate resilience. Automatically, that means that I'm even more able to explore scholarships around like food security, hunger, United Nations SDG 2, right? But in the same breath, I'm also able to explore scholarships around climate resilience, climate adaptation, right? So
Okay.
sometimes, if you're lucky to not be doing, let's say, something that is like one discipline, and you're able to like marry two disciplines, you can actually
Diversify.
be looking at opportunities from this part and this part and like bring them together. So I think it's
Okay.
just about, that's why I said like one of the things you need is curiosity and creativity when you're thinking about, because those keywords and those themes will now create like filters for you to start creating these things. And please make a spreadsheet, because sometimes you just start losing track of everything. So in my time, I had like a spreadsheet that had like the university, the scholarship, the
Yeah.
eligibility criteria for that one, the deadlines
Hmm.
for application, what they require beyond the eligibility criteria for the program itself.
Okay.
Some people would need like letters of recommendation in addition to the ones that you provide for like the regular application that you're doing.
Hmm.
And that's another part that I think people need to pay attention to. Like sometimes you're able to provide like all the correct requirements that are within your control, like your transcript, your resume, your statement of intent or purpose. If it's a needs based one, they can ask you to write like an essay, explaining why you need it or what circumstances are around your finances. Like
Okay.
some people are really good with just providing all of that, but then they say things like letters of recommendation, which are kind of like outside of your control, right?
Hmm.
I remember in like 2017, I had like this round of applications that required like really solid letters of recommendation, and I asked, and the professors like from like undergrad or whatever that I asked were like super happy to like provide it, but these letters were like shitty at best, right? So they were saying things like, "Oh, like Emma is a great student, blah blah blah. She speaks good English. She's attentive." I'm like, that's all well and good, but like I'm talking about like highly competitive programs where people
Okay.
people have recommenders that are saying, like this person worked with me to find something or like to patent a new product, and you're saying she speaks good English. Like, am I a joke to you? Right? So, you also want to like beforehand speak with your recommenders, help them understand
Let
the
them know the
magnitude.
content of what they need to
Yes,
generate.
the magnitude, how important this is. Talk with them to remind them of some of the cool stuff you did when they interacted with you, and how you want them to tell that story that fits into or creates that image that you're trying to project to the school, right? Some of them might be gracious enough to say, "Oh, how about we work together in drafting the letter?" By all means, jump on that. That was what I did in the
Yeah.
second round. That helped me with getting like the scholarship offers that I got. Um, like, okay, how about like we draft? I let you know like this is what I would like to say or whatever, and then you can like say, "Oh, I would appreciate it if you add XYZ based off of when I worked with you on this or that." So that at the end of the
Mhm.
day, your entire application is telling like a coherent story. It's not like you're selling yourself as the next best thing after sliced bread. And your recommender is like, "Oh, she wears white shirts and she always looks prim and proper." Like that has nothing to do with what you're trying to say,
Exactly.
right? Um, yeah.
Okay. So far I've just put it like, is that a bar chart? So
Hmm.
find out what you need, find out what scholarship you need, search for it, and then look at what the application and eligibility requirements are, and then follow suit.
Yes, or at least start to build that profile that is required. As much as possible, give it at least a year. I would say, like I've recognized because I have like different. I've done this application process like for a long time. Like right after like undergrad, I did like masters, but then I started working and I just deferred all the admissions from that. And then I tried again, and I had like just this epic fail with that round of applications because I had taken like a
Hmm.
career break. I was in a rush, so I realized that the the set of applications that I did after like I started super early and like
Yeah.
primed myself had the best
We're more
outcomes.
successful. Okay.
Yes.
Good, 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 good. So are there financial informations to be provided to the university or during the course of the visa application?
Um. Yes, I would say so. Again, I think it differs for um each each person or each program. With my master's program, I don't think that as at the time I was applying, they required like financial information, right? So I
Mm.
pretty much just applied to the program itself. And then there was a part of the program that said, "Would you like to be considered for like scholarships or whatever?" And I ticked yes. And I kid you not, that's it. So I just made
Oh,
sure that the application that I put in for the program was like top notch because it was a really competitive program. And I just ticked that and I just sort of let it be, right? So what they did was, I think they just, I know that at some point you require, so they sent the offer letter for the program, and then maybe like a couple days later, they sent the offer for the scholarship, right?
Okay.
I know that at some point I was required to provide like bank statements to show that I
Okay.
had money to supplement my sort of like living fees. But I think that was even after I had been giving that scholarship. So it's like, let's say the fees at the time was, let's say, $125,000,
Okay.
right? The scholarship that I had covered tuition fully, let's say to tune of like 75K. I think it was around that I got, right? And then the rest of it were like your fees. So things like international students fee, gym fees, all those little fees, health insurance, and then they sort of give you an estimate of what housing and like
Would
lifestyle
be
will cost you, right? So they then required like a bank statement from whoever your sponsor was to show that okay, you could take care of whatever else you needed for the program, right? And so I had to provide that. Thankfully, they were not like too fussy about oh, it has to be a parent, you know. So I think I was able to get like a relative who agreed to be a sponsor for my program, and then like provided that in addition to for the PhD, I don't think that they required that as well for me, right? So
okay.
I think for me, I've also been like a bit lucky with
Okay.
just some of the requirements being not too stringent in terms of additional, like
Extra documents.
yes, yes. So it's just like I provided everything I needed for the program, and it kind of came through. But I'm aware that with some need based scholarships, they might require
Yeah.
you to provide like bank statements for a particular period, tax returns, income statements, so like paychecks, right? To sort of validate whatever story you've told about like the
The
circumstances surrounding
reason.
your
Yeah.
finances. Some might ask you like for like budget estimates for like your current expenditure, and things like that. Because at the end of the day, like anybody can come and tell like a sub story or something. So they sort of also need to have like some system of
So if
validating
you're
on there.
going on need-based scholarship and you're
Mhm.
providing a huge statement of accounts or bank statements, is that not
Mhm.
going to raise an eyebrow? If you're going on the need-based scholarship, would you need to provide bank statements of a sponsor to show that truly you cannot help yourself to be sponsored?
So I guess it depends on what they're asking you for. If they're saying, "Oh, let's see your own finances," or let's say you say, "Oh, like my father is would have loved to provide to be my sponsor, but two
Yeah,
years ago he had a stroke. He has not been able to work." When you send those the statements, I'm not expecting to see millions in your father's account. You know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So I think it depends on the context, right? If you say, "Oh, I have a sponsor that is willing to cover 50%," right? Then you're going to need to show like bank statements or some
50%
sort of
of it.
income that would, be able to cover that 50 percent, right? And that brings me to things like maybe conversations that you would have to have with like the financial, what they call them, like the admissions office or the financial funding office or things like that. Some might have like a formal interview with you,
Okay.
right, where they call you and just like ask you questions to sort of assess your eligibility for that need, in reference to or with reference to what it is that you provided in your application. Some might
Okay.
have it as an ongoing conversation, right? Where they call you today, they have a conversation, and say, okay, let's go back and see what options we might have for you. They call you back like some other time, and sort of like an iterative process.
So, is that the interview process for the university or just for the financial based aspects?
It- It's for the now I'm referring to the interview for scholarships,
Right.
right? There are programs I know that even just to get admitted into the program, they might have interviews. Some MBA programs have that, right? But
Okay.
now what I'm referring to is like apart from like getting admitted into the program, some also have like um interviews just to sort of get feel the pulse on what your needs really are and whether you're fit
Yeah.
for their needs based programs.
Okay. I have more people that have joined.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, thank you for joining the live stream. So we've talked about the general overview. We've talked about the eligibility requirements and how to find the scholarships, the application process. We've talked about financial information. We've talked about interview process. Please feel free to take the video back to get more information on that. Are there challenges for people or applicants during the scholarship process? Because you've mentioned that you should give or take 1 year to be properly prepared.
There, nothing good comes easy. So there definitely are like challenges. And again, the challenges that you face depend on like who you are, where you're coming from,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you're applying as an international student, which I imagine like a lot of people maybe who live in Africa or even who don't live in Africa, but from Asia or whatever, like coming into the US are, going to be, you don't, unfortunately, you don't have as much scholarship opportunities, as you would if you were like an American. Like even
Okay.
now, as a doctoral student, looking out for like fellowships and like scholarships or like grants for my research, there are very few compared to the opportunities that are out there for people who are American. So you can have like a lot of them say with their eligibility criteria, like, oh, this person, you must be a US citizen or you must be a US permanent resident. So what it means is that automatically the pool from
Mm-hmm.
which you can even work with, is already like sort of limited,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's also the part where some of the programs that are even available to international students are uh, have like a bond. Yeah, I think that's what I call like bonds attached to them, or like some sort of clause, right? So they might say, oh, we would sponsor your program, but you have to go back to your country of origin after like your 4 years or your 2 years or whatever. Like that's all well
Okay.
and good if that person's original intent was to study and return back home. But if you were the type of person who wanted to complete your education and maybe get some like work experience within the US system, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
becomes a bit of a problem, right? And sort of automatically makes you not eligible, except you then want to like pivot or like change your own plans. You know what I mean?
I
So
mean,
that can
can they
be a
not
bit of a challenge.
change from that visa to a work visa if they find opportunities to work?
No, so the problem is not you changing from a work visa. Like the problem is not, this has very little to do with your visa, right?
Okay.
Anybody, once you have like your OPT, which for whatever it is you study, you get at least 1 year, right? And then if you're studying a STEM program, you get like 2 years OPT extension. So altogether 3 years. So like everybody kind of has like at least 1 year post to explore opportunities. But the problem is that when you were needing money, signed a contract or like some sort of agreement that you were not
Okay.
going to take advantage of that OPT. You were going to go, back home. So for my masters, I had a couple of friends from like South Asia who had come, like I think it was the Fulbright scholarship. And as soon as we were done, like I don't even know if they were here for like up to 2 or 3 months after we graduated. They had to leave the
Wow.
country, right? And I think, if I'm not, please don't put me anywhere, but like if memory serves me well, there's also like a time period that they have to work, that they have until they can come back to the US to work. So it's not like you
Mhm.
can leave to go back to your country and then like 3 months later you're coming back to come and work. It's like you're going to have to work in your home country for like X amount of years maybe before you can like
Okay.
get back
Return
into like
again.
the US system for work. Like you can visit or whatever, but like to come work here, right?
Immigrant
So
visa.
right, or even like non-immigrant work visas. So like those are some of the challenges that we might have to navigate as international students. But I would say like don't let that deter you, right? Because for everywhere that there's like that type of sort of constraint, there are also like some opportunities out there where you have
Mm-hmm.
like programs that are specifically for like international students. The other thing that I would say people should pay attention to that are not scholarships but are very helpful, especially for international students, are assistantships. right? Where
Okay.
it's not,
What's it about?
so it's like you're either like a graduate assistant, which is like where you could be like supporting like a professor, or like you doing some like maybe administrative work at an institute within the university, or you're a research assistant where you're primarily helping like faculty members with their research, right?
Okay.
Or teaching assistantships where you're doing some tutoring for a professor, or you're like helping him with grading the class, or like administering the exams for the class, or whatever. With all those, with those types rather of assistantships, some schools would like attach some sort of financial benefit with it. So sometimes they would give you like free tuition, right? So if you're a research assistant, you get like free tuition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And usually there'll be a stipend because you are working, right? So sort of like automatically you have like this free tuition, you know, and then what's it called? And then like your stipends. Some universities even go as far as like extending that benefit to like the spouse
Okay.
of of the assistant, whether it's like research teaching or graduate assistant, right? So some of them can be like very lucrative, but sometimes we are like so caught up on like just getting scholarships that we don't explore these other like kinds of opportunities out there. The other thing to note about assistantships that they might not like cover the entire duration of the program. So
Yeah.
like some scholarships, in my experience for my master's, the one I had was like a full tuition 2 year scholarship, and then for my PhD a 4 year. But with assistantships, you might just have like year on year. So like you have like 1 year assistantship, and then before that year runs out, you'd be expected to sort of like meet with professors, talk with people, and like get another assistantship to sort of bide you. So it might be a little bit more stressful because sort of you have to like do that negotiating and figure it out every year. But it's better than having nothing. Um, pretty much out there.
Okay. Thank you. It's been so insightful. Do you have advice for specific groups of people who might want to explore these free scholarships?
Yes. So like when I talked about like how like for whatever constraints you have, there might be opportunities. So like I think I've talked about like with international students, like there are like even within some universities there are programs that might be just for like international students
Yeah.
alone, right? But like women groups, there's so many scholarships in the US, of scholarships, fellowships, grants, research grants in the US that are just for women, right?
Okay.
Again, a lot of them might say like what's it called, like American women, but there will be some of them that are open to like sponsoring, or supporting women from like all over the world. um Marginalized, underrepresented groups, right? So if you're like what's it called, first generation, like the first person to go to school in your family or whatever, like you have like scholarship opportunities that support people who are like first gen students, or who are from like some like indigenous groups,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm referring to like your ethnicity now. There are also like lots of opportunities for like veterans in the US, right? This might be more applicable to like people who are veterans here in the US, but I can also imagine that you might be able to find something if you were a veteran in your country, like where
Okay.
you're coming from, to say, oh, what, and sometimes what you need to do is negotiate. Like you can call up a school and be like, oh, hey, I see that you guys have like opportunities and scholarships for like veterans in the US. Do you guys have opportunities or like options that might extend some of these benefits to veterans from Nigeria or veterans from Cameroon or wherever it is that you're from? And you'd be amazed to see that there's actually room for negotiating some of these benefits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So for people who are or who will view or watch this video later on, if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. And if you're currently watching this video, can you put in the comments where you're watching from, or just say something in the comments and I'll let our guests know about it. Okay. Are there any other more information that you would love to give us?
Let me look through my notes because I did have notes. I think we talked about like finding scholarships and databases. Okay, so the one thing that I think I sort of like just um rushed through was things like your personal statement or essay. Spend time on it, please. Like I cannot like overemphasize how important like it is for you to like have like a solid personal statement, personal essay. Sometimes, especially if you're working with a program that does not necessarily have interviews, like that's your one chance to make your
Okay.
case, right? You want to make sure that it's comprehensive. You want to make sure that it's compelling. You want to make sure that like it tells a very coherent story that sort of combines your personal values and experience, but also like your professional and academic like strengths and interests, right? You also want to make sure that it has it sort of spans the spectrum of like your historical
Background.
experiences or whatever, yes, but also like your future like interests and like your own outlook or perspectives as to where you're heading. You want to make sure that it speaks to the values of the university or of at least that program that you're looking to go with, and that's also like timely, like whatever it is you're proposing you want to do. And I'm speaking more so to like graduate opportunities now, where like they tell you, ask you what you want to do or like your research or why you're doing this, right? You want to make sure that you're in a very like globalized world.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure that whatever it is has like local bearings, but also like that global outlook. So please, like, don't underestimate like how what a good personal statement can do for
Is
you
there
in
templates where
processes.
they can find this?
There are templates like all over the internet, right?
Okay.
You would find like, oh, like sample letters for Harvard, sample letters for Stanford. Like some you even find some like by school. You will find some like by what's it called, by um by discipline,
Mm-hmm.
right? So take advantage of them. You also have like some of these AI um tools can be
Tools.
very
Yeah.
helpful in at least brainstorming. Like I'm not a proponent for like AI doing like all of your writing, but like it can be helpful to like structure your thought process or to, help you with like the outlines for some of these things. Yeah.
Okay. You were looking through your notes. Any other points you missed?
Okay, the other thing that I would like to say is, can you please give me like just 1 second?
Okay, that's fine.
Sorry about that. The other thing that I think I should say is a lot of people like have like you know peddled this impression that you have to be like the top 1% in everything that you've done for you to be eligible for scholarships. And so a lot of people shy away from it. It's like, oh, I didn't finish school with like a first class, I'm unlikely to get a scholarship. Like that is not the case. Like that's far from the case, especially today. A lot of these universities are like expanding the lens or the lenses through which they look at qualifications or like who they would consider a right fit. Like before, it used to be very like academic heavy, like, oh, we want like top students and like first class and like summa cum laude or whatever. But right now, people are looking for like more holistic individuals, right? Which is why a lot of schools are like waiving
Yeah.
standardized tests, right? So if you finished with like a 2-2, but you've done like brilliant work in industry, or you've done like great work with entrepreneurship, or you've done like great work in like non-profit with volunteering, you have like cool projects that you worked on, please by all means explore these
Explore the
opportunities, right?
opportunity.
And like if you feel the need to like write extra letters, because a lot of these programs will have like parts of the application where they have um like additional documentation that you want to submit. Feel free to
Yes.
send in like a video, feel free to send in like a portfolio, put in like an extra letter advocating for yourself. Like don't let it be that you're unable to explore opportunities that are out there because you made a mistake in the past, or you didn't perform as great in a particular pursuit that you had in your past. Yeah, I felt the need to say that because I've heard like so
That's
many
quite
people
helpful.
just
Yeah.
sleep on
Misconceptions here and
opportunities,
there.
yes, because they feel like they're not qualified. Meanwhile, people that are not as qualified as you are like taking hold of a lot of these opportunities out there.
There's a question. Someone says, "What will be the advice for someone with HND? Can he or she apply directly for master's program, or do you advise for a fresh BSc program? So from HND straight to masters, what would be your advice? Can they apply directly?"
Um, okay, so I would not want to advise you like categorically and say like because I've never really like looked into that. But just thinking about it logically, given like the experiences that I've had,
Hmm.
I would think that you should be able to go get a master's with, because HND is a 4 year program, right?
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
I think you should be able to go straight to masters because you also have like polytechnics here, and they are very different from like trade and tech schools, which are non-baccalaureate programs. So I think you should be able to go straight to the masters. But like, if for whatever reason with the school that you're looking at, they don't specifically say HND or BA or BSc, right? Just shoot an email. Like the admissions offices are so responsive. They're one of the offices that I just have to be like on top of their game because they're always like getting these inquiries from like people. So just shoot them an
So in
email.
other words, check what the eligibility is as per the university or
Yes.
what the program requirement is.
Yes. And if they don't speak specifically to HND, shoot them an
And
email and you
BSc.
probably get a response. But off the top of my head, I think you should be able to go get a master's with an HND.
All right. That's very good. Just like you can get straight to PhD from BSc. That was one of the things I
Yes.
learned
With the
today.
US. Yes. It would be like probably be like a lot, it would take you maybe longer to finish
Okay.
your PhD program, right? Because what happens is that if you do have like a master's degree,
Mm-hmm.
um for some schools with mine you get like a 30 credit waiver. So once you're able to send in like your transcript and they like sort of ascertain that you have like the credit requirements, they waive 30 credits out of the PhD required credits, so you sort of have like a shorter,
Okay.
it sort of like, what's the word, like accelerates your PhD some, right? So for that person that doesn't have a master's, you're not getting that 30 credit waiver, so you might spend
Absolutely.
it,
More time,
two, yeah, maybe
longer
two extra
time.
semesters or whatever
How many
doing your
years is
coursework.
the master's and how many years is the PhD program?
On average, master's programs are like 2 academic years in the
Okay.
US. So I think it's about 21 months, I think. But basically 2 academic years. The PhD, so like there's a running joke that you don't ask a PhD student when they graduate, but I think it definitely takes longer. And it depends. Like it's a
Okay.
program to program thing. But on average, it will be anywhere from
4
to 6
years.
years. Like that's
Wow.
the average range that you have for PhDs in the US. I have, however, seen people who were able to graduate in like 3.5 years or even 3 years, because there are things that you can do within your program to like accelerate it, right? If you have a
Okay.
master's, you get like that waiver. You can take like summer, classes to like shorten the time. Just things that you can do within your program. And then after you're done with your coursework, the rest really is up to you and your committee because at that point you're just doing your research and writing. So it depends on how productive you are.
Right.
Yeah.
So much, so much, so much information. Thank you so much, Ma.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Even for the short notice and you're able to turn up for everyone on my community or in my channel rather. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much everyone for joining the live stream today. It's been so insightful. If you have any further questions, please put them in the comment section at the end of the live stream and I would answer the question through our guest. All right, this will be the end of the live stream. See you in my next video. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.